So I'm back with a little Wisdom Wednesday magic, talking about seasonal adaptation and flowing with the seasons. So what I want to talk about today is exactly that. We're approaching a new season. We're about 10 days out from spring. And I've just noticed in myself that I've become a lot better at adapting to each season as it flows in. And I wanted to give you some tips. And I recently saw my lovely lady friend Nicole Angela post some really lovely tips for spring cleansing. So she has an IGTV channel, and check out Nicole Angela. She provides some really beautiful, easy, simple tips for adjusting to spring and for moving through the seasons. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is I know that a lot of us, including myself, really struggle with winter. We're not quite at spring yet, we're still in winter. And one of the things that's really helped me is movement. Now, obviously, our bodies might not feel like doing a lot of vigorous movement in the winter. We're feeling like we want to be more cozy and we want to be more, at home in our couch, all wrapped up in a blanket. And that's we can do that. We should do that. But also, I think we can struggle a little bit if we don't move. We're sitting all day at a desk maybe, and we're not actually moving our bodies. So I try to find a minimum of 20 minutes every morning to move my body in whatever way it wants to move. I try to be as intuitive as possible, but I always try to focus on flowing practices that moves the energy in my body. So I practice Qigong. I do practice a little bit of yoga asana and some natural breathing, belly breathing, and then what other kind of functional joint mobility kind of movement that gets my joints feeling really nice and fluid. I also, that's one thing I do. The other thing I find that we really struggle with in the winter is we isolate. And again, normal. It's normal to do that and to want to do that. But I think we can tip to one side and isolate a little too much. So what I would recommend is try to find a group of people or a person to have lunch with, or go out for dinner, or go for a walk, or just socialize. Get yourself out there and find community and find friends and connect with people. Really important for winter. Winter can be a very restorative time for that, because we can maybe make a little more time for less commitments, other kind of commitments that we might do in the summer, because summer can be a very busy time where we're out all the time, whereas winter we might just kind of pare down and just prioritize simple things like having a tea with a friend. So socializing, movement. Now also, just one of the things I really like that Nicole said is, and I've always believed this too, is watching what nature does. Nature is a beautiful guide, and often we just get mad at nature for doing her thing. And I think that's kind of silly, because nature can inspire us all the time. It's right in front of us. We just have to be awake to what's right in front of us. And so what I do is I just pay attention every day to what nature's doing, and I help that to understand what I need to do and what I need to awake to within. So for example, yesterday I was driving through that kind of mini blizzard we had. At least we had it here in Guelph. I don't know if it was anywhere else, but we had lots of flurries and snow, and it's kind of like, to me, what happens every year is winter just kind of has its thing where it just wants to get its stuff out of its system, and we get a lot of kind of up and down weather where one day it's a blizzard outside and the next day it's 5 degrees and sunny, and then the next day it's 15 degrees, and the next day it's really windy. And that can also mimic a lot of really intense emotions within ourselves. We can feel one day super excited and awake and alive, and then the next day like, oh, I have to go and bury in my home again because it's freezing outside and I don't want to go out. And so there's kind of this up and down emotion to try to regulate. Don't want to try to regulate it too much. You want to be present with what's arising and just be with that and notice, and maybe don't try to force yourself so much out of being, you know, in a rage or being in anger, as long as you're not throwing that on someone else. But be present with whatever emotions are rising, whether it's anger, because we are moving into the spring, which is the energy of the liver, and it can be a very heated, liver represents the emotion of anger, so we can start to feel a lot of fire coming out of us. We're also about 10 days out of Aries season, and Aries is a very fiery emotion and just wants to ram forward. It's the sign of the ram. So I know with any fire sign, I tend to feel it about 10 days out from when it actually is in. We're still in Pisces, but because it's a fire sign, it roars through really early on. So I start to feel this kind of like fiery energy and wanting to like shift things and jerk things up and change things, and just notice that in you. That's like a natural tendency. It can just be channeled into art. It can be channeled into movement. It can be channeled into whatever brings fire in your body. So just watch nature and be inspired, because nature changes every day, and nature is doing, especially in Canada, we're kind of blessed that way. We don't have the same thing every day. We have lots to look at and lots to be inspired by. Go with the flow. Go with the flow, whatever nature is doing, and see whatever arises in yourself as it does that. So those are some of my tips for attuning to the seasons. And the elements and the signs. Let me know, hit me up if you have any questions, and I'd be happy to answer them. Happy Wisdom Wednesday. Bye.